The reason why there are no bands now is because in the 90s, Oasis and Primal Scream and Blur and Pulp and all those, we were the mainstream. The music industry doesn't like the mainstream being a load of fellas on drugs, drunk half the time on a Tuesday. Like, they don't like that. They like people like Harry Styles.
Noel Gallagher, welcome to Absolute Radio. It's good to have you back here. Friend of the radio station.
Yes, indeed.
How did you as a musician stay on top of things when the gigs were cancelled and everything?
Well, I'd finished a 2-year world tour the previous November in 19, and I think I'd done 5 back-to-back world tours, which had taken 7 years. So I was very much ready for a year out anyway. But I didn't do a great deal in the first 3 months. I mean, I finished off a load of songs that I would ordinarily have not finished. And, of course, the 2 songs that were on the best of wouldn't exist without lockdown happening. In fact, the best of itself wouldn't probably exist.
When you're running your own label and you've come up with this idea during lockdown, does that then make it easier to look back at the 10 years of Five Flying Birds and then pick your songs to put on it? Because you've got quite a canon of work to pick from just for this project.
Yeah. Well, when I left Oasis, I didn't want to re-sign a record deal. I'd done all that. So, yeah, things are quite easy now because I'm in charge, and it's just, if I have a whim, my God, somebody better dance to the tune of that whim. And sometimes they're great, and sometimes they're not. But like everybody else, privately, it was a real horrible, tough time for everyone. And I know people like me, the edge is taken off it because I've got a massive back garden. But all that aside, it was really tough for my kids and my missus. And
Lockdown 3 was the worst one, wasn't it? The last of the 3.
I can't see us going back into lockdown. I'm not going into lockdown again, by the way. If anybody's listening from the government, I'm not bothered what you say. I'm not going in, and that's the end of it. I will buy a nightclub in the West End, and I will open it 24 hours a day, even if there's only me in there playing my own tunes.
Gallagher's Bar. That'd be so good.
I don't know what I'm going to call it, but it's going to be great. I'm not going back into lockdown.
You are our first in-person interview the studio since it all kicked off. I missed out on a Zoom interview with Coldplay because the tech failed me. Don't say anything. He's tempted. What tech have you struggled with, or do you struggle with?
I'm dreadful with it all. I was the last, I don't really know this, but I was officially the last person to get a mobile phone in England. And I didn't get a laptop until 2012.
Oh my word.
I think when I initially got it, I was like, whoa, and switched it on, I get so frightened. I think if I hit the wrong button, there's going to be a guy inside a mountain at a bank of TV screens looking at a missile being launched and saying, how's that happened? And I'll be there going, so I just tend to use my phone, and I hate it. I hate the way that I was watching the Oasis documentary, the Nebworth thing that's coming out in October, and I was reminded by somebody that after the gig, the promoter was saying, well, what are we going to do now? And I said, we'll do it next year. And he was saying, great, we'll do 5 nights next year because it'd be really easy to sell the tickets over the internet. And I was like, the internet? What's that?
Yeah.
And he said he explained it to me, and I laughed and went, I'll never catch on. Who want that?
Never going to take off.
Fast forward 25 years, and those little phones they run your life.
But we were talking about this on our Home Time show a couple of weeks back, but are you in WhatsApp chat groups? Like, are you in like a Lads Tour Faliraki 2023?
I'm in a Man City one with all my city mates from Manchester, and I'm in one with my mates down here that's entitled Not For The Girls. Because you can cut this bit out, right? But what I found during the first lockdown, that the level of filth that was sent between men, because I'm not into that kind of thing, right? But
of course.
The level of filth, it was to be admired. I was almost saying, Sarah, look at that. But
there's always one mate that sends on the forwards.
We've got a couple who check it, they cross the line.
Yeah.
It's just, you have to definitely go, yeah, mate, come on, man.
I get all the stuff I get sent.
Uses the phone sometimes.
Jerry, our plumber, is the one who sends me. He's always the one who forwards on, someone flying out of a cannon and hitting the window.
It was staggering for that first initial 3 months. And then it was just like, all right, this is getting a bit sad now. But there was nothing else to do.
You mentioned Nebworth a while back. I was over at Nebworth the other day with my 3-year-old doing the dinosaur trail there, and whilst he's in the
Were we there?
whilst he's at the souvenir place trying to pick his favourite dinosaur stuff, I'm seeing the pictures of the Oasis gig, and like you talk about how you missed, playing live together with the band, but like. Surely you must also you must feed so much off those crowds as well. That amazing feeling you must have missed that.
Well, I mean, when you see this documentary, it's the band at its absolute peak, and Liam's at his peak, but it's a real snapshot of a long gone era of there's 250,000 people, not a single mobile phone, no internet, in the moment with the band. Nobody's doing this. Everybody's singing at the top of their lungs, and it's a very young crowd, and it's you kind of think, wow, the 90s.
Well, I was going to say to you, I genuinely bang on about it a lot. I think the 90s was...
It was the last great decade.
It was the last great decade of music.
Well,
it'll never be like that again, I don't
talk
think.
about it now. I think that my kids' generation, I think this is actually the first generation that are going to have less than their parents. When we all grew up, we had more than our parents. We had more freedom, we had more opportunity, better lifestyle. My children now, 2 boys who were 10 and 14, 9 and 13.
I can never remember my kids' ages.
Will have less freedom because of this ridiculous woke culture and the internet, and they'll have less opportunity because of the economy's crashed, and they'll have less places to go because of the COVID thing, which I don't think will ever really truly go away. And I feel bad for them. And like when people see this film, I got quite emotional watching it, just because of what we've lost, really. But it's a great document of a great band in a great era.
Do you think someone like Alan McGee could ever be like an Alan McGee again or anything like that?
Well, they're still there, but the record labels, the majors bought all those guys out. And you tell them Alan and Andy McDonald and a few others who started these record labels in their bedrooms and then sold them for 30 million. And why wouldn't they? We'd all do the same. The music industry doesn't like Mavericks.
Yeah.
The reason why there are no bands now is because in the 90s, Oasis and Primal Scream and Blur and Pulp and all those we were the mainstream. And what the music industry doesn't like, the mainstream being a load of fellas on drugs, drunk half the time on a Tuesday. They don't like that. They like people like Harry Styles.
Yeah.
Who they say, wear this dress and shut it. Wear this, sing that, and go home.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what happened. So, but the Mavericks are still there. It's just they're not in the mainstream. And unfortunately, we were brought up where Top of the Pops and the charts was everything.
Yeah.
And I listen to the charts, and it's just embarrassing, I think.
Yeah. Do you moan your way right through it?
I've only ever listened to it once in the last, I don't know, many years, and it was just that it felt like it was the same song with a load of people in it who don't even got names. They've got numbers and letters attached to them, and they're like, like barcodes or something. But a lot of it's the same because a lot of it is written by the same people.
Yeah.
So it's sad for kids, but.
I mean, we saw you at the Isle of Wight Festival. Was that 2019 you played the Isle of Wight Festival?
Yeah, it would have been, yeah.
You were great. Obviously, there was a lot of chat about the percussion scissors.
Oh, yeah, Charlotte, yeah.
Are you at the moment in lockdown working out the next unlikely item of percussion?
No. It was nice to see them all actually the other day. She wasn't playing the scissors the other day. Funny enough, I think she might have retired them. It was funny when that happened, right? That a lot of journalists try to intellectualise it, right? And honestly, she actually does play them in her band. She's got her own band.
Right.
All right, she's French and she's psychedelic and she wears a cape. And you're not quite sure of what she's going on about most of the time. You're just kind of nodding going, right.
Oh, yeah.
And we were doing Jules Holland doing one of the tracks and she has a bit where she has a spoken French bit in the middle. And I was saying, it didn't come in for a minute, and I was saying, so in that minute, can you play the tambourine or something? She's like, I cannot play the tambourine. And I was like, well, even my 9-year-old can play a tambourine. She said, well, I can't. I was like, can you play a shaker? I cannot play the shaker. And I was like, can you play anything? She said, well, in my band, I play the scissors. And for a minute, I thought she said the scissors, right? And I was like, well, play them then. And she kind of came in the next day rehearsals with a bag of scissors. And my bass player is from Liverpool. Russ kind of leaned in. He went, mate, that's far out. And I was kind of looking at her going, wow, as if the speaking French in a track won't be enough to do these lads' heads in bucket hats. We're now going to throw the scissors in. And she, I mean, that's what she does. She's an avant-garde French artist. But everyone was trying to intellectualize. So what are you actually saying with the scissors? I mean, are you like live trolling your brother? Is that what it is? And I was like, no, mate, you're going to have to speak to her. I'm busy writing the songs here. You know what I mean? And but bless her, she's great. I love her.
When you started 10 years ago, for High Flying Birds, and then you go back with Oasis and all that kind of thing, people, if you said to them Noel, they may have gone Edmonds. Now, if you say to someone on the high street Noel now,
I'm a coward.
they're going to go Gallagher.
Yeah. Probably, yeah. I mean,
that's how time's
Britain's
passed.
most famous Noel.
Well, I have become the first Noel.
You have?
You know,
Yeah,
I was. I tell you what, maybe before lockdown, the summer before lockdown, I was out one afternoon with Sarah and a few friends for lunch at Scott's. And on the next table sits down beside me is Noel Edmonds.
Double Noel.
Who used to be the first Noel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But not anymore.
No.
And we were like, no way. Yes, mate. Yeah, I remember doing a thing for that Lighthouse charity once, and I had to be interviewed by Alan Partridge. And he you're not the first Noel. You're not even the second Noel. You're not even the third. You know, when I started High Flying Birds, because the High Flying Birds I tagged on the end of my name, when I was making the first record, I was coming past Shepherd's Bush Empire one night, and I was trying to picture my name in lights above the door. I couldn't see it, and I was like, it doesn't sound that great, you know what I mean? And I thought I'm going to have to come up with a band name, but I didn't want to be in a band, and out of the sky fell High Flying Birds.
There you go.
But yeah, I never seen it in lights, I'm afraid. But still don't.
I mean, where do you go from here, Noel? Because I mean this genuinely. You don't look any different to how you did ages ago. You're aging like a fine wine. And like, have you put a date on, like a time limit on how long you can keep going?
I don't want to live till I'm 80. I know people who are 18. It just doesn't look a great deal of fun to me. And the world, the way it is, what's the world going to be like in 25 years, 30 years? It's going to be dreadful. I mean, the only thing that's keeping me going is the fact that City might win 11 Champions Leagues in a row. But no, I don't. I mean, in my whole career as a musician, I've taken it one step at a time. So when I joined Oasis...
That sounds like another album title, mate.
Surely Volume 2.
Come on.
But when I joined Oasis, I'd never played live before. So let's do a gig and then, you know, so like... Well, let's write some song and let's do an album, and then after the album, let's see what happens. So where I'm at now is once we get this out of the way, I'm halfway through writing a new record, and that won't come out till 2023, and then we'll see how the game is, and hopefully live music will be back. But musicians, we've got Brexit to deal with now.
Yeah.
You know, and hopping on the train to Paris to do an acoustic session for radio stations, that can't happen anymore. So it's
How are
going
you
to
going to get arrested on a ferry these days now? Do you know what I mean?
I didn't get arrested that night. I was too busy chatting girls up.
Good man. Correct response.
The rest of them were like behaving like a load of scousers. Just like, yeah, calm down. It's like fit birds on here. My ass about fighting.
Well, listen, it's been awesome to chat to you. Thanks so much for your time. And like I say, 10 years of Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds album, Back the Way We Came, Volume 1, out now. Thank you so much.
Thank you.